stay out of Kensington. Don't go anywhere. There's drugs everywhere, but some places are worse than others, and just stay out of this town.
What do you think about Kensington? How is it out here, the environment?
It's a zombie land. It's nothing but people dying, sores all over everybody, and then everyone else is just ignorant because they don't understand things.
I was hallucinating. They couldn't get my heart rate down. Like, this shit's dangerous. It's scary.
I hate addiction. If I could kill it, I would.
Well, can you find another way to cope with your problem besides using drugs?
I definitely can, but, you know, a lot of them are expensive, but...
A disgusting mess.
Jennifer Chen has worked the same kitchen for 20 years. Her hands know the rhythm of prep work before dawn, the heat of lunch rush, the cleanup after closing. She still shows up at 5 a.m., still keeps her uniform pressed. What changed is where she sleeps. When her rent doubled in 18 months, the numbers stopped making sense. She ran the calculations every way possible, even working 6 days a week, even cutting back on groceries, even sending less money to family overseas. There was nothing left for a security deposit anywhere else. The apartment she had called home for over a decade became unaffordable almost overnight. Now her car sits behind the restaurant where she works, and at night, the driver's seat becomes her only private space. She keeps her work clothes folded carefully in the trunk. She uses the restaurant bathroom before her shift starts and after it ends. During breaks, she eats meals she prepares in the kitchen, storing nothing that might spoil. Her coworkers see a dedicated employee who never misses a shift. They do not see where she goes when the restaurant closes, or how she positions her car under the streetlight for safety, or how she sets an alarm for 4:30 a.m. so she can drive to a public facility to wash up before work begins. Welcome to Homeless People Stories. In 2025, Philadelphia's struggle with housing instability reached a point that demands our attention. This is not a story about people who stopped trying. This is about a city where effort alone cannot overcome the gap between what housing costs and what work pays. It is about the quiet desperation of working full-time while sleeping in a car, of maintaining dignity while losing ground, of surviving in plain sight while feeling invisible. Stay with this story until the end. What unfolds here shows how quickly rising costs and systemic gaps can strip away stability. If it stays with you, leave a comment. Support the video and subscribe. In January 2025, Philadelphia conducted its annual point-in-time count of people experiencing homelessness. The results showed 5,516 individuals without stable housing across the city. This marked a 6% increase from the previous year and the fourth consecutive year of growth. The trajectory is unmistakable. The crisis is deepening, not receding. Of that total, 4,338 people were staying in shelters or transitional programs. These individuals at least had a roof overhead. Even if temporary and uncertain, the remaining 1,178 individuals lived entirely outside, on sidewalks, beneath overpasses, in abandoned buildings, or in doorways not designed for human habitation. This unsheltered population grew 21% in just 12 months, the sharpest increase in recent memory. The geographic distribution tells its own story. The Kensington neighborhood alone counted 280 people sleeping on streets, making it the most concentrated area of visible homelessness in the city. But the crisis extends far beyond Kensington. North Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, and areas along the Schuylkill River also showed significant populations living without shelter. The problem has spread from isolated pockets into broader patterns affecting multiple neighborhoods simultaneously. Across the city, 1,612 individuals met the federal definition of chronic homelessness, meaning they had been continuously homeless for at least 1 year or had experienced at least 4 episodes of homelessness in the past 3 years. This represents a 49% increase and signals that for many, homelessness is not a brief emergency, but a prolonged state of existence. Additionally, 443 households included families with minor children. These are not single adults navigating street life alone. These are parents trying to shield young ones from exposure, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy while living in vehicles, doubled up in overcrowded apartments. or cycling through temporary shelter placements that disrupt school attendance and friendships. Behind these statistics are real people like Andre Thompson, 26, who works double shifts as a line cook. He has been clean from addiction for 14 months. He attends recovery meetings weekly, saves everything he earns, and maintains spotless work records. Yet he still cannot afford the first month, last month, and security deposit that every landlord requires. His recovery is solid. His determination is real. His work ethic is unquestionable. But the housing market does not care about any of it. Without the scaffolding of support family savings, credit history, rental references from years past, one barrier keeps him locked out. The demographics reveal unexpected patterns. While many assume homelessness primarily affects older men, the data shows increasing representation across age groups and genders. Young adults in their 20s and 30s now make up a growing share. Women, often invisible in public spaces because they prioritize safety over visibility, represent nearly 1/3 of the unsheltered population. The profile is diversifying, reflecting broader economic pressures that cut across traditional boundaries. The distance between a secure life and the street is shorter than most imagine. One medical bill, one job loss, one rent increase, the margin is thin. What happens when the place you call home becomes the thing you can't afford to keep? For those watching these numbers climb year after year, a troubling question emerges: if the city recognizes the crisis, if resources are being allocated, if programs are in place, then why does the visible suffering on streets intensify rather than diminish? To understand how we arrived here, we need to look at housing costs that have broken free from any connection to wages. According to a 2025 analysis from the University of Pennsylvania's Housing Initiative, Philadelphia faces a shortage of more than 64,500 affordable rental units for extremely low-income households. This is not a small gap. This is a chasm. For every 100 households earning at or below 30% of the area median income, only 36 affordable units exist. This mismatch means that thousands of working people, even those employed full-time in essential jobs, healthcare aides, food service workers, retail clerks, delivery drivers, find themselves priced out of the market entirely. The jobs remain essential. The workers remain necessary. But the city has failed to ensure that work translates into housing stability. In many neighborhoods, rents climbed faster than incomes could follow. Between 2022 and 2025, average rents in areas like Fishtown and Point Breeze increased by 20 to 30%, while wages in service sectors rose by less than 10%. What used to be manageable monthly expenses transformed into impossible burdens. Families that had lived in the same buildings for years suddenly faced lease renewals they could not afford. Linda Morrison worked as a librarian for 30 years. She knows the Dewey Decimal System by heart and can still recite patron names from decades past. Her pension made sense when she retired 8 years ago. It covered rent in her one-bedroom apartment in Germantown with enough left over for groceries, utilities, and occasional visits to see grandchildren in New Jersey. But pensions do not adjust the way rent does. When her building sold to new ownership 2 years ago, the first rent increase was manageable. She cut back on other expenses. The second increase, 6 months later, strained her budget to the breaking point. The third increase, announced this past winter, pushed her monthly housing cost to 70% of her fixed income. She faced a choice no one who worked their entire life should have to make: pay rent and skip meals, or leave the apartment she had called home. She was too proud to ask family for help, too practical to ignore the numbers that no longer added up. She tried applying for senior housing, but waiting lists stretched 18 months or longer. She looked for cheaper apartments, but her credit had taken hits from late utility payments, and landlords rejected her applications. Now she navigates a city she served for decades without a place to call her own, carrying her belongings in a wheeled cart, sleeping where she can find relative safety. The absence of affordable housing creates what researchers describe as an assembly line of displacement. People move through predictable stages from rent-burdened to severely cost-burdened to evicted to homeless, with mechanical efficiency. Each stage strips away another layer of stability until nothing remains to cushion the fall. Other economic pressures compound the problem. The rising cost of food, transportation, healthcare, and utilities stretches already thin budgets until they tear. For longtime residents, especially in neighborhoods experiencing rapid change. The combination of these forces quietly erodes their ability to hold on to housing. Gentrification brings new investment and amenities. But for those whose incomes remain static, it also brings displacement dressed in the language of neighborhood improvement. This points to a larger truth: individual effort cannot overcome systemic barriers. No amount of hard work compensates for a broken housing market. Can you imagine losing everything you own in 30 days through no fault of your own? The result is a slow but relentless increase in the number of people who find themselves without a door to close at the end of the day. The conveyor belt to the streets keeps moving, processing people from housed to unhoused with efficiency that would be impressive if it were not so devastating. The next layer of this crisis reveals how addiction and dependency turn already difficult circumstances into something far more dangerous. In areas like Kensington, the presence of powerful substances, particularly fentanyl and other synthetic opioids, creates an environment where temporary escape becomes permanent entrapment. The toll is immediate and severe. People lose physical strength, mental clarity, and the ability to care for basic needs. Coordination deteriorates. Decision-making becomes impaired. The simplest tasks, finding food, staying warm, avoiding danger, become overwhelming challenges. Nights become restless and chaotic. Sleep is fragmented by withdrawal symptoms, by paranoia, by the vulnerability of being exposed on streets. Fear grows heavier. Many describe the terrifying sensation of slowly losing themselves, of watching their own personality and judgment slip away while feeling powerless to stop it. For hundreds living without housing, drugs do not simply add to hardship. They multiply it exponentially, turning exhausting days into battles for survival that feel impossible to win. What was already a precarious existence on the edge becomes darker, more isolating, and far more hopeless. Andre Thompson knows this struggle from the inside. Before he got clean 14 months ago, he spent 2 years caught in the cycle. He remembers the desperation of needing the substance just to feel normal, the shame of choices made under its influence, the isolation of pushing away everyone who tried to help. He hit bottom in a hospital emergency room after an overdose nearly ended his life. The medical team stabilized him. The social worker connected him to a recovery program. The program gave him structure and accountability. He has done everything right since then. He attends meetings, works with a sponsor, stays away from people and places that trigger cravings. He works double shifts because the routine keeps him focused, and the extra money goes into savings for the apartment he hopes to rent someday. But every application for housing gets rejected because of his record. Every shelter has a waiting list or rules he cannot meet. Every night, he makes the same calculation. Where can he sleep safely until morning without jeopardizing the fragile stability he has built? What does it feel like to shower at a gym because you don't have a bathroom anymore? The daily reality without shelter strips away basic dignity in ways most of us never consider. There is no quiet room to wash up, no secure place to store medications or important documents, no door to close against weather, noise, or the stares of strangers. The constant need to remain alert, to protect belongings, to find the next safe spot creates exhaustion that never fully lifts. Sleep is always interrupted. Privacy is non-existent. Rest becomes impossible. Jennifer Chen keeps her situation carefully compartmentalized. At work, she is professional, efficient, reliable. She preps vegetables with precision, works the line during rush periods without complaint, cleans her station until it shines. Her uniform is always clean. Her appearance is always neat. The boundary between her professional life and her personal reality is maintained with fierce discipline because crossing it means risking the one stable thing she still has: her job. But alone in her car at night, the weight settles. She positions the vehicle under a streetlight for safety. She locks all doors. She keeps her phone charged in case of emergency. She sets an alarm for 4:30 a.m. so she has time to drive to a public facility, wash up, and arrive at work looking presentable. She has become expert at managing these logistics, at maintaining the illusion of normalcy, at carrying the burden without letting it show. How do you maintain dignity when your entire life fits in a shopping cart? Witnessing this asks us to sit with discomfort. It's easier to look away than to acknowledge how easily any of us could be in their shoes. The emotional cost accumulates quietly. The loneliness of watching other people return to warm homes while you face another night exposed to elements. The quiet shame of trying to stay clean and presentable without reliable access to showers or laundry. The deep sorrow of slowly losing pieces of your former identity, the person who had keys, who had a kitchen, who had privacy, who had a place to belong. Shifting from individual survival, we turn to how concentrated homelessness affects shared city spaces and community order. In 2025, Philadelphia's sanitation and public safety operations reported significant increases in quality of life complaints related to street conditions in high-impact areas. According to departmental data, crews conducted thousands of additional cleanups along major corridors and in public parks compared to previous years. The frequency and intensity of these operations reflect the strain on urban infrastructure when large numbers of people have nowhere else to be except public spaces. Foot traffic patterns shifted as residents chose different routes to avoid areas they perceived as unsafe or unpleasant. Small businesses in affected neighborhoods noticed changes in how customers moved through streets, with some reporting decreased foot traffic during certain hours. These economic ripples affect local employment and tax revenue, creating secondary pressures on communities already struggling with multiple challenges. The pressure is real on multiple fronts. Without private space, every basic function becomes public. Personal hygiene, rest, storage of belongings. Even eating meals all happen in full view because there is no alternative. For those experiencing homelessness, this constant visibility creates its own form of suffering. There is no moment of privacy, no chance to let down the performance of coping, no respite from being observed and judged. City management teams increased coordinated outreach operations by nearly 40% compared to 2 years earlier. These teams, usually composed of social workers, mental health specialists, and sometimes police officers, deploy regularly to areas such as Kensington, parts of Center City, and sections of North Philadelphia to address concerns about blocked sidewalks, crowded underpasses, and the accumulation of personal belongings in public areas. For people without housing, every night becomes a negotiation between staying safe and staying unnoticed. They seek spots that offer minimal protection from rain or wind while avoiding areas where they might be asked to move. They carry all their belongings with them because leaving items unattended means losing them. The absence of a locked door, a private bathroom, or a quiet corner creates constant alertness that prevents genuine rest. Many speak of the deep emotional toll, the quiet shame of eating or resting in full public view, the exhaustion of never fully letting their guard down, the dehumanization of being treated as a problem to be managed rather than a person in need of help. The simple human need for rest and dignity clashes daily with rules designed to keep streets clear and accessible for everyone else. The cracks in the safety net have widened into chasms, and people are falling through by the thousands. Residents and business owners face genuine concerns. They want safe, clean neighborhoods. They want sidewalks clear for pedestrians, including elderly residents and parents with strollers. They want public spaces to feel welcoming for everyone. These desires are legitimate and reasonable. The challenge lies in balancing these needs with the fundamental reality that people without housing must exist somewhere. This situation calls upon our shared sense of responsibility. When so many people lack basic shelter, the effects ripple outward, touching every part of community life. The question is not whether the impacts are real, they clearly are, but rather how we respond in ways that preserve both urban order and human dignity. If you had to spend every night worrying about being asked to move while simply trying to rest, how would that constant pressure change the way you see the city around you? Yet even in this bleak landscape, small lights of hope are beginning to appear. According to the Philadelphia Housing Authority's 2025 progress report, the city aims to add over 2,800 units of permanent supportive housing within the next 5 years through expanded public-private partnerships. These units are designed to provide stable homes paired with voluntary access to job training, health support, and life skills programs that help individuals rebuild routines at their own pace. Permanent supportive housing operates on a straightforward principle: housing first, services second. Instead of requiring people to prove sobriety, maintain employment, or demonstrate stability before receiving shelter, this model recognizes that stability becomes possible only after basic housing is secured. The approach inverts the traditional logic that has kept so many people trapped in precarity. Programs across Philadelphia are demonstrating measurable success using this framework. One initiative in South Philadelphia has housed over 150 individuals in the past 18 months with a retention rate above 85%. Residents receive their own apartments with leases in their names. Not beds in congregate facilities. They have keys. They have kitchens. They have the privacy and security that most of us take for granted. Support services are available, but not mandatory. Caseworkers check in regularly, connect residents to healthcare, assist with job applications, and provide practical help navigating bureaucracy. But the housing itself is not contingent on perfect compliance or immediate transformation. The model accepts that recovery and stability are processes, not prerequisites. For those who have spent months or even years without a fixed address, the impact of having a private space again is profound. Simple routines return cooking a meal in your own kitchen, storing clothes in a closet, taking a shower without time limits or audience, closing a door at the end of the day, and knowing you can open it again tomorrow. These seemingly small things create the foundation for rebuilding larger pieces of life: steady employment, reconnecting with family, managing health conditions, planning for the future beyond the next 24 hours. The model stands as a beacon in the fog, a proven path when others argue in circles about which interventions to try. Prevention programs are also showing promise. By helping at-risk families and individuals keep their current housing before eviction occurs, these initiatives reduce the flow of new cases entering the homeless system. The investment in prevention costs far less than crisis response. Keeping someone housed through temporary rental assistance or emergency funds costs a fraction of what it costs to provide shelter and services once they lose housing entirely. One Philadelphia nonprofit reported that for every dollar spent on eviction prevention, the city saves approximately $3 in emergency services, shelter costs, and other crisis interventions. The math is clear. Prevention works. These glimmers of possibility: programs that work, approaches that succeed, lives that are genuinely rebuilt, remind us that solutions exist. The challenge is not discovering what works. The challenge is committing to scaling what works and removing the barriers that prevent proven interventions from reaching everyone who needs them. These successes raise an obvious question: if this works, why isn't it everywhere? The gap between proven solutions and widespread implementation reveals systemic failures that perpetuate the crisis. Despite significant investment in homeless services, despite recognition that the problem demands attention, despite programs that demonstrate effectiveness, the unsheltered population continues to grow year after year. Resources are allocated, committees meet, reports are published, yet the most visible suffering on streets intensifies rather than diminishes. Why do we keep funding programs that require people to be stable before they can access the stability they need? One persistent issue is the qualification barrier that locks out the people who need help most. Many programs designed to assist homeless individuals require documentation that people living on streets simply do not have: government-issued identification, proof of income, rental history, credit checks, background screening. This machinery of exclusion operates with bureaucratic efficiency, sorting applicants into categories of deserving and undeserving based on criteria that homelessness itself makes impossible to meet. Jennifer Chen cannot qualify for most housing assistance because her income from the restaurant, while steady, places her just slightly above the eligibility threshold. She earns too much for help, but too little for market rate housing. She exists in the gap between programs, ineligible for assistance yet unable to afford housing without it. Andre Thompson cannot access certain supportive housing programs because his recovery record is less than 2 years old. Some programs require 3 years of documented sobriety. Others require 5. Each arbitrary threshold keeps him waiting while he maintains his recovery without the stability that housing would provide. The system demands proof of stability before offering the very thing that makes stability possible. Linda Morrison waits on multiple lists that move so slowly she has aged out of programs before reaching the front of the queue. She applied for senior housing 18 months ago and remains somewhere in the middle of a list containing hundreds of names. She applied for general subsidized housing and was told the wait could exceed 3 years. She applied for emergency shelter and was told all beds were full. The waiting itself becomes a form of failure. The system hemorrhages resources without ever addressing the wound. Billions flow through budgets, yet outcomes remain stubbornly poor. Coordination between agencies remains fragmented. One department provides street outreach, Another manages emergency shelters. A third handles housing vouchers. A fourth oversees supportive services. Each operates on different timelines, follows different eligibility rules, and maintains separate databases that do not communicate with each other. People fall between these gaps repeatedly, exhausting what little energy they have, navigating bureaucracy instead of rebuilding stability. How many more reports do we need before we admit the current approach isn't working? The numbers spent are significant. Philadelphia allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to homeless services in its most recent budget. The results are not proportional. This disconnect between investment and outcome suggests fundamental flaws in approach rather than insufficient funding. The money exists, the structures consuming it are inefficient, fragmented, and often counterproductive. What's preventing us from scaling the solutions that actually work? Political will remains inconsistent. Administrations change, priorities shift. Programs that show promise get defunded when budgets tighten or leadership turns over. Long-term solutions require long-term commitment, but governance operates on election cycles and quarterly reports. The mismatch between the timeline of the problem and the timeline of political action creates perpetual instability in the very systems meant to provide stability. As we close this examination of Philadelphia's housing crisis, the weight of what we have witnessed deserves a moment of genuine reflection. The path forward exists. It is not theoretical. It is not speculative. Proven models demonstrate with measurable evidence that when housing is provided first and support follows, people rebuild their lives at rates far higher than traditional approaches achieve. Prevention programs show that intervention before eviction costs less, preserves families, and reduces the flow of new cases into emergency systems. The tools are available, the blueprints are drawn. What remains is the question of collective will. What kind of city do we want to build? One where everyone has a place, or one where only some do? Every person currently living without shelter in Philadelphia carries within them the same fundamental desire for safety, belonging, and dignity that all of us share. Their struggle is not separate from our community. It is woven into the fabric of daily life in this city, visible on streets we drive past, present in public spaces we share, affecting systems we all depend on. Jennifer Chen still shows up at 5 a.m. She still presses her uniform. She still works with the same dedication she brought 20 years ago. Andre Thompson still works doubles, still attends meetings, still saves every dollar. Linda Morrison still navigates streets she knows by heart, still maintains the dignity of someone who gave her working life to public service. They persist because the alternative is unthinkable. Their perseverance in the face of systems that fail them repeatedly reminds us that behind every statistic lies a human being deserving of more than survival, deserving of the chance to rebuild, to rest, to belong. The systems meant to prevent this crisis are failing in ways that should concern everyone. When structures break down, the consequences ripple wider than we think. May every person currently living without shelter in Philadelphia find warmth, safety, and dignity in the days ahead. May they encounter open doors and helping hands rather than closed systems and arbitrary barriers. May the understanding we have gained here translate into action, action that scales proven solutions, removes bureaucratic obstacles, and treats housing as the foundation for stability rather than a reward for achieving it. And may we, as witnesses to this reality, carry forward not just awareness but commitment. Awareness alone changes nothing. It is what we choose to do with that awareness, how we vote, how we advocate, how we support organizations doing the work, how we treat those we encounter on streets that determines whether Philadelphia moves towards solutions or deeper into crisis. Thank you for staying until the very end. If these stories touched you, please give this video a like and subscribe to Homeless People Stories so we can keep bringing more real accounts from communities across the nation. Every story of struggle carries within it the potential for connection and renewal. Every person sleeping on Philadelphia's streets tonight deserves more than our sympathy. They deserve our action. Together, we can work toward a city where fewer people must endure the pain of having nowhere to return to when the day ends, where work provides not just wages, but the stability to build a life, where dignity is not conditional on documentation or perfect behavior. The choice before us is clear. The path is mapped. What remains is the decision to walk it.